Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg. My Lamy review of the Lamy calligraphy set seemed to be quite popular, and I realized I had another one of these calligraphy sets, the Plumix Enzo Creative Tool from Pilot. This is a set that actually really intrigued me because it only cost on Amazon $27, and the nibs that it comes with three different size nibs: a .44 millimeter calligraphy nib, a .58 millimeter medium nib, and a .70 millimeter broad nib. Are completely swappable with other inexpensive Pilot pens and with the Wingsung 3013, which is a vacuum pen. Paley makes a pen that you can use these, any pen that uses the inexpensive Pilot nibs. And so you can put the nibs on a Metropolitan or the Explorer. And the Plumix pens are I think they're weird. They're inexpensive. They're a bit longer, and they have these tiny little caps. But actually, they work quite well. And when you actually draw with them, they're kind of nice. So you sort of have to get used to them, I think. They use cartridges, or they will use a 40 converter, which is the least good of the Pilot converters because it holds very little ink. I'll show you that because the set comes with three pens, the three different nibs, which is very generous that it comes with three pens. So remember, the Lamy kit only came with one pen, and you had to swap out the other two nibs. They came with the housings, but not the whole pen. And it also, at least it says in the Amazon version, you get one converter, and it comes with 15 cartridges, which is very generous. And I'll show you that. I will do a drawing of my cat with the pen. Now these calligraphy nibs, in comparison to the Lamy, are more subtle, and so that's something to keep in mind. Let me also reiterate that I use these pens to draw with. I don't use them to do fancy lettering. Okay, you get a box like this. It says Hand Lettering Calligraphy Set, and so Creative Tools. And you open the box, and in the box there's this little booklet that has some kind of basic instructions on how to use the pen, but also how to do some very sort of basic calligraphy using the pen, which I think would be a nice introduction to somebody, a young person, for example, who's just starting to get into calligraphy. And here is the actual pens that you get. You get three. You get 15 cartridges in green, blue, and purple, which match the color of the Plumix pens. I would prefer to have black as one of the colors, but it always seems that the pen manufacturers aren't big on giving you black ink. I don't know why that is, particularly with cartridges. Maybe they know that you'll then go out and buy them. I know this is in backwards. Now, the other thing you get with this kit, it says it's something that's exclusive to Amazon, but I'm not sure about that, is you get a Con 40 converter here. I have a lot of these, so I've already put one in the pen. And this is it works fairly well, but it is the smallest of the converters that Pilot makes, and the way the pen is designed, I think this is the only one that you can put in the pen. So it doesn't hold a huge amount of ink. It's nice they give it to you, although you would need 3 of them, one would guess. But there you go. As always, I will do a writing test as well. I also want to show you a comparison with the Lamy, the different line widths. And finally, I want to say something again. Please do subscribe, because that's the #1 way to support the channel. I am slowly but surely getting subscribers, and that's nice, and getting many more people are watching the videos, but it would be great if there were more subscribers, so please do that. Thank you. It's interesting to look at the different line widths in comparison to the Lamy. The Lamy really is giving you much more of stub nibs that have wider lines. As you can see, the Plumix fine is really almost like a fine line, but it has a kind of metallic quality to the nib itself. And it's only the so-called B, the bold one, that really begins to have a kind of real thickness that approaches something like the Lamy between the 1.1 and the 1.5. So that's something to keep in mind with these pens, and that they're a little different from the range for the Lamy, and particularly if you're using them for calligraphy, it's quite different. Also, the Lamy Joy pen, I think, is much more comfortable and substantial pen than these odd Plumix pens. One thing I forgot to mention is the Plumix pens do post. The tiny little caps do go on the bottom. Okay, this is the so-called fine. It's 0.44 millimeters calligraphy nib, which is almost like a regular fine point. You can see a little bit of line variation. Here you can see what a bad calligrapher I am. But you can see there's just a little bit of weight to it. So it is kind of, I would say, a fine italic nib. And it is fairly wet and a bit scratchy. Actually, it actually has a black Pilot cartridge in there, not platinum ink. And here is the medium, which is, I think, 0.58 millimeters. And you can see that this is a little thicker as an italic, more like a stub. And this nib was very scratchy. Maybe it has to do with using the platinum black carbon ink, because I used the converter in this one. But I don't think so. I mean, this is the thing about fountain pen nibs. Sometimes they're smooth, and sometimes the same nib is scratchy. You can see this has a bit more character to it than the fine. And it also is fairly wet. And this is the bold. And this again is using a black Pilot cartridge. And this really does have much more of a width to it. It's a 0.78 millimeter, and you're getting more line variation. And this, surprisingly, was the smoothest of the three pens. This writes very, very well. I actually really enjoyed using this one. One thing is interesting is, I forgot to mention, is the little cap that comes on a post on the bottom. Okay, so here I am drawing my cat, Severus, and I started using the fine, sort of sketch him in. And then I begin to use the thicker pens to bring character to the whole thing. Bold. And this is the medium, I think. Oh, actually, it's the fine. Sorry. This is the medium. And they really worked out well using these three different pens. I really like the way this came out.